Thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Horowitz, I want to go back to where we were just a few minutes ago. This text message that this mysterious one that was the most explosive one disappeared, refound, but the department sits on it for a month. Can we get a copy of the correspondence that you had with Mr. Rosenstein? Was there any type of, how did you communicate to the Justice Department that you had found this text message?
My agent sent it by email.
So you sent an email. Did you get
this printout, the spreadsheets, you know, of all the text? We had 120,000 or so, 100,000 lines of text.
So you didn't specify we found this one that had been missing?
I then, when we found it, I specified to the Associate Deputy Attorney General on June 8 that he ought to look at this one.
Oh, so you sent it to him last month, but then you specifically pointed out to him last week or 2 weeks ago.
Correct. When we identified it and saw it as we were going through these 100,000.
What response did he give you when you pointed it out? The most explosive text message.
Thank you for telling me about it.
Thank you for telling me that. Well, yeah, I think so, but not like, well, we need to get this to Congress like we did all the others right away.
I'd engage him on that.
Do you know if there's anything nefarious at work? Because when we got the original pages of the text, it had the prompting question from Ms. Page. It says he's not ever going to become president, right? We had that one. We've had it for months, as did you. So why didn't we get the response? All the other times we get the back and forth. This time we did it.
I think actually it goes to the technological issue that we think needs to get addressed and fixed, frankly, because what happened here is on the fourth go-round, when we were doing our quality control check on what we had done, we found an operating system or program in the phone that was.
So you think it was technical? You think it was a technical problem?
To us, that's what it appears as to why this wasn't found before May.
I'm more concerned about why Mr. Rosenstein didn't give us the information when he first got it. It seems to me he should have. Let me go to something else here. How many different investigations do you have going on right now? Are you looking at, you're looking at Mr. Comey, you're looking at FISA, potential abuse of the FISA court process, and are you looking at the leak issue with the FBI? Are you looking at, have you got 3 other ones going on?
We got lots of investigations.
Well, I know, but relative to this subject, I know you got lots.
Yes, we're looking at the leak issue as well. That's ongoing.
So all 3 of those
remain ongoing.
Within ongoing investigations, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea when, I'm interested in all of them, but I'm particularly interested in the FISA, potential abuse of the FISA process. Do you have any idea when that one will be complete?
I don't, Congressman. In part, as you know, a few weeks ago we were asked to broaden that and look at some additional information and issues.
Do you anticipate it taking 18 months like this Clinton investigation one did, Mr. Horowitz?
I don't anticipate it, but let me just say, if we had released this report in January, you would not have most of these text messages.
No, I understand. I mean, you got to do your work, but
I can't.
As important as it is,
that.
when you looking at the FISA potential abuse of the FISA process, will you be looking at the question of whether Mr. Rosenstein threatened staff members on the House Intelligence Committee?
I've read about that recently, and I'm certainly, as in all instances, available to take information. I only know at this point what.
But will that be within the parameters of your investigation? That question?
Frankly, I'd have to understand a little bit more about it and what occurred, and how it might connect to this, if at all, or whether it's something separate.
Will you look at the issue of why, when the dossier was taken to the FISA court, they didn't tell the court who paid for the document? Will you look at that question?
Certainly within the FISA review.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman. Parliamentary
Mr.
inquiry.
Horowitz, in the course of your investigation, will you look at the question of why, when the application was taken to the FISA court, they didn't reveal the fact that the author of the document, the author of the dossier?
Chairman, I have a parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman from Ohio controls the time.
Is it not appropriate to raise the question as to what is the germaneness of the gentleman's line of questioning and whether or not we're dealing with the report of Mr. Horowitz or we're dealing with the Republicans' attempt to undermine the Mueller investigation and as well to fire Attorney General Rosenstein, which they're planning to do on Friday.
The gentlelady has not stated
the
a
agenda.
parliamentary inquiry. The gentleman from Ohio controls the time, and I would ask that the time be put back on the clock that was usurped by the gentlelady from Texas.
I would just respond, Mr. Chairman. It's been widely understood that when the dossier was taken to the FISA court to get a secret warrant to spy on a fellow American citizen, They didn't tell the court two important facts. They didn't tell the court who paid for the document. They didn't tell the court the guy who wrote it had been fired by the FBI. And I'm just asking, as Mr. Horowitz undergoes this important investigation, if he'll be examining those two fundamental questions.
We will take under advisement those and other questions that have been raised. And as we said with this review, if we find additional issues, we will look at those as well. And partly that's why this is
One last question, if I could,
500-plus
Mr.
page
Horowitz. When May 17th, 2017, Rod Rosenstein writes a memo outlining the scope and parameters of the special counsel investigation. On August 2nd, 2017, he writes another memo that in some way alters, amends, modifies the initial scope of the investigation. And yet we can't see that, the American people can't see that. Seems to me, if you're altering the scope of an investigation into the guy that the American people made president of the United States, we as Americans deserve to know exactly the parameters and scope of that investigation. And so will you be able to get a hold of that August 2nd memo and make that available in the course of your investigation?
Gentleman's time has expired, but you may answer the question.
I'd have to think about how that connected to our investigation and what connectivity, germaneness it would have to ours. I'm happy to consider it. I have not seen either of those memos myself. And like I said, on its face, I'm not sure the connection between that and the FISA, but I'll certainly take it under advisement, Congressman.
Thank the gentleman.
Gentleman yields